So with me this morning, I should have Mark Greenwood, hopefully coming live just now. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Janice.
Mark is our Director of Business. We are hopefully going to have Jennifer Peaty as well. She's Head of Regulatory Consultancy. And so if you need your quick comfort break, run away, but Mark and I will start chatting about these things in the meantime, and hopefully you've got the gist of what this session's going to be about in the meantime as well. So Mark, what is new and what is coming our way?
Well, plenty as always. I'm conscious the next session's on consumer duty with our king of consumer duty, Carl Dines, but I can't ignore consumer duty. Big piece of work from the regulator, 2 blockbuster papers, consultation papers in May and December last year. We're eagerly awaiting the policy statement on consumer duty, which we've been promised by the end of this month. That'll contain some new rules. As it stands, those rules will come into force in 9 months' time, so April next year. But interestingly, there was a couple of articles in the trade press last week saying they're considering a further 6-month extension. So that would be October. But again, we're not going to really know that until we get the devil in the detail, but that will be soon. We've been promised it by the end of this month.
It's an extension for implementation, isn't it, though, rather than actually the rules coming in. So it's given advisors a longer period of time to be able to adopt and demonstrate their adherence to the requirements. It'll be interesting to see if they go down that route. I mean, when you look at it and you read that, certainly that last consultation paper back in December, 29,000 words, it was a tough read. It's reinforcing a lot of the FCA's previous messages, but it is going to bring some new rules, some new tasks that firms will have to perform going forward. I mean, it's basically elevating that existing TCF framework, raising the bar of consumer protection. But for me, when I'm speaking to advisors and firms, you know, their advisors are experienced in how to protect the best interests of their clients. That's what they do every day. That's what sits at the heart of consumer duty. Probably the change for me is some firms might not have the correct compliance processes in place to be able to assess that and evidence that. But again, for me, that's where we come in. We're both part of the consumer duty project team. We've been doing a lot of work on this in 12 months and beyond. That's going to get ramped up again when we do get this policy statement. So again, I don't want to steal any of Carl's thunder in the next session, but I couldn't ignore consumer duty. No. You look more generally, what's coming our way. Well, a fantastic publication that gives us a heads up on that is the FCA's business plan. That was published in April, so just a few months ago. And again, it listed kind of 4 key priorities the regulator is going to be looking at. Our asset managers presenting ESG products fairly. So again, that's all around the greenwashing piece, you know, investment houses, marketing and investment, so it appears more environmentally or ESG friendly than it actually is. Again, that's going to be geared at investment houses and providers. We've heard a session a few sessions ago on crypto and crypto assets and cryptocurrency. In the next 12 months, the regulator's looking at finalising the rules on the financial promotion of high-risk investments and crypto assets. Again, you can see they're becoming slightly more mainstream, so they want to finalise them rules in that area. One of the other key priorities was preventing phoenixing firms becoming claims management companies and then seeking FSCS compensation for their past activities. So kind of poacher term, gatekeeper type analogy. I don't see that affecting our firms. It certainly won't affect us. But claims management companies have been regulated now by the FCA since April 2019. As a business, we made a decision before that not to get involved assisting firms, claims management companies to achieve authorization because of a kind of conflict of interest perspective. So again, that's probably not going to affect our firms that we serve or ourselves.
The one that might affect a few people today is the FCA are finalising the rules on the regulation and supervision of appointed representatives.
Yeah.
So if anybody watching today's got an AR, strongly recommend you go to our compliance section, the regulatory guides. We've got a fantastic AR guide there. I mean, we're expecting these final rules fairly shortly. In a nutshell, it's going to mean greater responsibilities when appointing an AR, more regular reporting about an AR's activities. Ultimately, the FCA want to see more quality and control.
Yeah.
And that may affect some firms. You can see more generally, some of the networks out there now are starting to act even before these finalised rules come through. You know, we've got a network not a million miles from our head office in Huddersfield that have just cut a lot of low turnover advisors. Again, that's all part of what they would see as a quality drive. That same network are now asking for personal bank statements from firms and advisors. So again, this is all on the back of these finalised rules coming into play.
Yeah, so there's a lot of big things here, sort of at a very high level, but we just, we obviously with these advice shows, it's sort of snippets of information and about our clients and members coming and saying, like, give us more information about this kind of thing. So sort of dead on cue. I saw you joined us, Jennifer, so welcome. I mentioned you had some IT issues there. So obviously we've looked at the sort of high level things, but what's the actual impact on firms and what are the common issues that we're seeing at the moment? Jennifer, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no problem. Hello, everybody. Sorry, a few technical problems there. In the field at the moment, it's still SMCR. You know, we're coming up in December to 3 years since everybody was getting ready to say who are the senior managers in the firm and who's taking what prescribed responsibility and what type of firm are we and what the rules and how does it impact us. And it's not going away. So we have the annual certification, you know, for advisors. And I think for firms, it's really just making sure that you've got the right person doing the right role in the firm. And that means going back to these statements of responsibility from December 2019 and making sure that you actually have, you know, the right senior manager taking over that responsibility. You know, since these prescribed responsibilities, you know, were set, and then some of the other ones that sit underneath it, we've had vulnerable customers, we've got consumer duty coming. So it's really important to make sure that somebody takes ownership of that within the firm, because if the regulator sort of follows up on this, that's the person they want to speak to, and they want to make sure that they've put the proper measures, procedures, you know, and practices in place, along with sort of training and awareness of staff. So I think for firms, it's knowing we've got that certification piece to, you know, to do, but we need to have the body of evidence, and what does that look like?
Yeah,
you know, all the
I
things
guess
that come within it.
That's what the consultants are seeing, aren't they, through their visits, whether the visits be remote or on site. These are the common trends that we're seeing, that, you know, firms may potentially fall foul to the regulator if some of these things aren't in place. You know, it's like, I think it's easy to think, oh, it'll never happen to me, you know, but the regulator will not go away, and it'll, you know, just take a few things to happen for them to go in that mission.
Yeah, I think it's easy to have, you know, we've got such a kind of wealth of information available within the website, within the hubs that we've got, and we've got all these templates, but it's really getting an understanding of, you know, personalising them to the firm and making sure that you do what you say that you're going to do. You know, the policy team have put so much work into actually giving really kind of interactive guides, you know, and if you look at the FCA paper in comparison to ours, we've got to break it down and make it, you know, a bit more practical for firms to use. So, you know, one of the key ones that we speak about when we go out on visits just now is this annual review guide for SMCR, because it really just confirms again what the annual responsibilities are. And it's not going to go away. It's so important to have that in place. One of the gaps sort of that sits underneath that again is the firm's a T&C plan and procedures. So again, it's an easy template to have. It's easy to set out that you do all these things, you know, with certified persons, but how can you demonstrate and actually document that you have done them?
Yeah, it's that practical aspect, isn't it, that the visits bring, where we can give that sort of, you know, tailored to the firm and what they're, because they're the big guide and the general principles around these things, but how do you actually apply it? How do you document? And how do you not overthink it? I mean, I'm one of the world's worst overthinkers, you know, and we might do this, might do that, and it's getting it right, the right level of detail without over-egging the pudding there as well, for sure.
I think as well, it's understanding where you do need additional support. You know,
Yeah.
firms have got 1,000,001 things to remember, you know, on a daily basis. So one of the prescribed responsibilities is for a certification regime. So if you are that person within the firm, you need to make sure that you've got, you know, the right measures in place to be able to certify, you know, these advisors as fit every year. And the FCA, undoubtedly, they will follow up on this. You know, there's no way they're going to bring out SMCR and then expect that everybody's all doing it perfectly. You know, they will follow up on it. So that's where we try and aim to give that support, both on the field and obviously within internally. We've got our, you know, the business support team will do the, you know, the certification and help with that within, you know, the fit checks and the TMC scheme.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jennifer. I mean, I think it's always important, and I say it a lot, compliance is all of our world, and it's an important part to an advisory business, but it's all of our world, and obviously our team are holding sort of expertise for those things. Mark, part of your responsibility is the help desks reporting to you. What are you seeing? What are the impacts that you're having within those
I'll
teams
give you a
and the
quick
questions?
whistle-stop tour of the teams that I'm responsible for. The compliance help desk has had quite a spike of calls recently on the back of a new general insurance regulatory reporting requirement, and the snappily titled Rep 21. Again, I've spoken to quite a few firms about this. I know our help desk have. We had 2 general insurance returns at the start of the year. We've now got this 3rd one. Needs to be submitted by the 30th of September. For the huge majority of our firms, it'll be simply a nil return. That's led to a few mildly annoyed people saying, Mark, we don't even do general insurance. Why are we getting a 3rd general insurance reporting return? And it's because the FCA doesn't have the granular detail. So what they've done is gone for a scattergun approach and said anyone with insurance permissions has to complete this return. So that's led to a few mildly annoyed people. Again, it's a 1-minute exercise. We issued a bulletin on the 30th of June on this. Find that in our latest communications area. If you've got insurance permissions, and most will have watching today, just have a look at that bulletin. Any problems, ring our compliance help desk. But like I said, the huge majority of firms that we serve, it'll be a nil return. So that's led to quite a few calls to the help desk, compliance. Authorizations team, we've had quite a few calls on the back of the FCA introducing a senior manager's application fee back on the 27th of May, £250. So if I left SimplyBiz, joined a firm as compliance oversight, SMF 16, that firm would have to complete a long Form A. There'd be a £250 charge for that. For individuals that hold existing senior management functions and they're applying for an additional one, that's a short Form A, so there's not a £250 charge for that. So there's been a little bit of confusion around that with some firms. Again, that's led to a few calls to our authorizations team. Pensions, a lot of emails. I get the work queues. I can see what's coming in on the cheery subject of divorce. We've had the no blame divorce rules legislation came in England a couple of months ago in April. You look at the statistics, I think it was Q1 2020 to Q1 2021, increase of 40% in divorce rates. Cheery subject for a Monday morning. But the impact of that is that's led to pensions and divorce type queries. And you see quite a lot in the pipeline. There's actually some in there this morning. I had a quick look before we switched ourselves live. Tax and trust team really busy at the moment. They're always busy. They cover a lot of areas, but we've got the deadline for the registration of non-taxable trusts to the Trust Registration Service. That's the 1st of September. So not far away at all. We've issued 2 bulletins on that already. We're going to be issuing a 3rd on Wednesday next week. That contains a template letter you might want to send to your trustee clients to inform them of their responsibilities. That's led to a spike of traffic, email and phone-wise to our tax and trust team. But it's we're aware as well that some providers are now writing out to firms, reminding them of the Trustee Registration Service. So we know the Pru did that certainly in the last couple of weeks. That tends to lead to a spike of calls. So as always, they're all busy. Probably the one subject that's the compliance help desk and the authorisations team have spoke about is with firms, the regulation of prepaid funeral plans. That's on the 29th of this month. A bit niche, you could say, but it's being regulated by the FCA from the 29th of July. So we've had a few firms interested in applying. That's to get involved in that area, that business line. You can do that. It's a variation of permission. That will cost you £500 to the regulator. For anyone watching today that has applied and does have that permission, we'll be issuing a guide in the next few days. You'll be able to find that in our regulatory guide section. So that'll tell you everything you need to know for an intimated sales process when it comes to prepaid funeral plans.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a little smile there, not over funerals and divorce, but it was like you got all the cheery subjects this morning, Mark, but clearly big life events where, from an advice point of view, are very important, to people as well. So that's great. Thank you for covering them. Just a sort of open question to both of you. You've just got a couple of minutes left at the most for this session, but how are firms approaching the challenges? Sort of, if you can give me a one-line answer for that, Jennifer, if you want to go first. How are firms actually approaching these challenges? What we're seeing?
Yeah, for us in the field, they're contacting their consultant, they're taking the visits. We're so busy just now, just trying to tailor the support to the individual firm. So obviously we've got different themed audits, but we've also got support days as well that can be a bit more bespoke, to the actual firm, and make sure that, you concentrate on what they want to look at. Yeah. But the audits, again, are invaluable because you don't know what you don't know, and, they'll tell you where the risks are just now.
Great. And Mark?
Obviously, a lot of firms contact our help desk, as we've just been through. I think for me, a big message, if I had a one-liner to say, is, our learning and development events, our professional development events, all start up again in September. Clearly, there's going to be a focus on consumer duty within the compliance update, and then I strongly recommend people to attend them. Myself, Richard Nuttall, Sandy McGregor up north of the border, if you've not been to one of our meetings for a while, I think with this huge consumer duty bomb ready to drop in the next 3 weeks, by the time our meetings start in September, we'll have issued a lot of support, we'll have digested the paper, we'll know what firms have to do, equally what they won't have to do. So again, I think those are, if you can get to our meetings that start in September, I'd strongly recommend that.
Absolutely. And that leads us very nicely, Mark. Thank you for that. On to Carl Dines' session, where Carl's going to look at consumer duty in a bit more detail. And we will be back there. If you all still have on the telly when I'm doing this, we'll be back with you in 20 minutes or so. I'll have Mark and Jennifer, and Richard Nuttall will join us live at that point as well. So it'll be over to Mark now for this next session.